can try fighting the law all you want, but the law is always going to win. From politicians and celebrities to sports figures and business leaders, they're fighting the law. Now, here to sort out the nation's top legal news stories is America's favorite legal analyst, Royal Oakes. This is the Royal Oakes Show.
Perhaps you're noticing I am all alone. We are typically joined by our co-host, Jeffries, co-host, I'm the correspondent, Conroe. They ain't here today. They're both on special assignment, so it's yours, my podcast. It's just me. So we're going to have fun, though. We're going to get through a lot of topics, and in particular, what we're going to do is we're going to make it the Jeopardy or Karnak, the magnificent version of the Royal.
Alexa, what is Drake's real name?
What we're going to do is we're going to give you the answer,
followed by the question. So topic number one, see if you can guess what the topic might be. The answer is suicide by lawsuit. Suicide by lawsuit is the answer. So what's the question? What did Kevin Spacey's accuser just commit? So everybody's familiar with the idea of suicide by cop. You want to kill yourself, and so you do something provocative while you're holding and waving a gun in the presence of police. Next thing you know, you're dead, and it's one way to do away with yourself. It's called suicide by cop. Well, Kevin Spacey has an accuser. Remember some time ago, Kevin Spacey was in some Martha's Vineyard bar, and he was hanging out late, getting close to closing time, and there was a busboy who was just off of his shift, and what do you know? It's Kevin Spacey in my bar. So nothing would do but that the busboy go up to Kevin Spacey and ask him for an autograph. One thing led to another. They started chatting. They started drinking. Kevin started groping. And we now all know about it because Kevin Spacey's going to trial. So the guy didn't report it for a while. Essentially what happened was that the alleged groping occurred. Kevin Spacey really needed to go to the little boy's room. They had been drinking a fair amount. So he said, just hold on. I'll be right back and grope you some more. While he was gone to the restroom, somebody walked up to the guy and said, hey, are you going to put up with this? If I were you, I'd hightail it out of here. And so the guy did. He ran all the way home. Gets home, talks to his mom, who used to be a Boston TV news anchor. And she is not happy. I mean, the guy isn't happy, I'm sure, as well, after being allegedly groped. But the mom, after a while, decides to really push the issue. So she goes to the cops, and she brings her son involved. And next thing you know, charges are being filed against Kevin Spacey. So next thing you know, the texts that were being given by the victim to his girlfriend have surfaced. And the texts are really pretty provocative. They're things like, OMG, Kevin Spacey, it's Kevin Spacey, can you believe it? And the girlfriend responds, are you kidding? Really? Seriously? OMG, he's totally gay, he's touching me, oh my God, he's grabbed me 8 times. Only he doesn't say me, he actually identifies a specific anatomical part that was allegedly grabbed. OMG, he's giving me another drink, I can't believe this is happening. And so it's like live blogging for the assault that this guy's a victim of. Now, on the one hand, this is the problem for Kevin Spacey because arguably it's more reliable to look at the series of texts to figure out what happened that night as opposed to Kevin Spacey's recollection, oh, I did nothing wrong, as to opposed to the recollection of the guy, oh, he did 100 things terribly wrong, and this is my rendition of it. You know, it's a pretty good, accurate, presumably record of the events real time created in terms of his text series. But, you know, how big a problem is it for Kevin Spacey? If the guy was drunk and not up to defending himself, talking about the victim now, the busboy, and the touching occurred, as it apparently did according to the text, well, that does sound illegal, so maybe prosecution of Kevin Spacey is appropriate. But isn't it kind of weird that as the events unfold, he's not yelling, he's not slapping Kevin Spacey, he's not calling for help in the crowded bar, he is texting his girlfriend real time? So now we come to the suicide by cop or suicide by text issue. The fact by lawsuit issue, excuse me. The fact that the alleged victim has filed a lawsuit for millions and millions of dollars, I think really undermines his credibility. It's one thing to say, hey, I was a victim of a crime, officer. Here's what happened. I'm going to fill out a police report, and justice will grind forward slowly. That's what happened for a long time, but now into the mix is a lawsuit, and that's going to leave the credibility of the accuser in tatters, I think. Essentially what's happening is that everybody in the world is going to see, okay, so you're really unhappy that this happened, and this was illegal if it happened the way you describe it, but you want a lawsuit, so you have a motive to lie, you have a motive to exaggerate, and on top of that, we have the new development that the accuser, what are you going to do, son of a gun? He lost the phone. He provided the phone to the cops, and they were able to download some material, but apparently they didn't copy everything. The cops gave the phone back to the guy, saying, now, don't you dare lose this. This is vital evidence in case this matter goes forward to a trial for Kevin Spacey, and he's lost it. He and his family have looked high and low. They've looked everywhere it could be, and the phone is missing. And Alan Jackson, who used to be a deputy attorney, district attorney in Los Angeles County, very high-profile guy, ran for, I think, mayor or attorney general, some big office, didn't make it. He was the prosecutor in the Phil Spector case. He handled, I think, both prosecutions of Phil Spector. The first one resulted in a hung jury. The second one did result in a conviction. He is now, what do you know, Kevin Spacey's defense attorney, because he's figured out how much more money he can make as a criminal defense attorney than as a civil servant prosecuting guys like Phil Spector. So Alan Jackson is absolutely furious because he is pointing out that this telephone had a lot of information on it that could actually be exculpatory for good old Kevin Spacey. It could show things didn't happen the way the accuser claimed they happened. So as a result, this is a big problem for the accuser. He's filed a lawsuit which undermines his credibility. He can't find the phone. And so I think basically his lawsuit also is losing him some credibility in the sense that, get a load of some of the wording in the lawsuit. The lawsuit says the assault left the man, quote, unable to fully disclose in complete detail the degree to which Spacey abused him emotionally and physically. Really? Is that true? I mean, I suppose he could have such incredible post-traumatic stress disorder that somehow his mind has been fried, and so he's unable to come up with any legitimate recollections of what happened. But is that really what happened? He was there in the bar for a few minutes, and maybe they did step outside. I've forgotten the facts. The groping happened. Did it really leave him unable to disclose in complete detail the full majestic nature of his abuse emotionally and physically? I don't know. Obviously, Kevin Spacey has bigger problems than this guy in that apparently 5 or 10 people are lined up in the wings ready to make accusations against him. And I think that eventually is Kevin Spacey's going to be his downfall. As we know from the Harvey Weinstein case, and as we know from the Bill Cosby case, as we know from the case of the mayor of San Diego from a few years ago. I've forgotten the guy's name. But the thing he and Cosby and Weinstein all have in common is that there are many, many accusers. And when you have 10, 20, 50 accusers, the fact that a couple of them have some real serious credibility issues, you know, most people, including most people on juries, are prepared to say, sorry, pal, you are absolutely guilty. I mean, some of the people that were accusing the male mayor of San Diego of harassing or abusing them were women, like a rear admiral, a female rear admiral in the Navy, a lot of other folks that didn't have some sort of weird credibility problems, desperate need for money, so they've got to make up a story so they can get a settlement representing a month's or a year's salary. There were a bunch of credible people. Same thing with Bill Cosby. You remember what happened to Bill Cosby. The first time around, just like Phil Spector, it took 2 trials to convict him. With Bill Cosby, it took 2 trials. And what was wrong with the first trial? Well, the first trial only had the accuser, Andrea Constand, and one other lady who was an accuser. Andrea Constand had some serious credibility problems. She may also have filed a lawsuit, I don't recall, so that might have hurt her credibility. But even more so, even after the alleged actions by Bill Cosby against her, she followed him up to Canada to a comedy concert with her parents in tow, bringing a gift for him to give to him. I mean, what kind of a victim of sexual assault does that? Yeah, there are some shrinks that'll testify to say, you know what, just because somebody acts in a weird way, a way you wouldn't expect given the fact that they have told a story of abuse, that's just how some people deal with it. That's how some people try to repress it or try to forget it. Really? Maybe so. You don't send somebody to prison, I think, just on the speculation based on some psycho mumbo-jumbo about a possible, recovered memory, lost memory. But the killer for Cosby was, in the second trial, the judge said, you know what, I'm going to allow, I think it was 6 or 7 additional accusers. And so the jury was treated not only to Andrea Constand and the one other accuser story, but 5, 6, 7 women. And the jury was sitting there saying, clearly, what are we going to disbelieve all of these women? This is a pattern in practice. Now, Cosby actually has a chance to get out of prison and have his conviction reversed based on the fact that the judge allowed so many women to testify against him. In general, when you're accused of a crime and it's basically related to just one person saying this guy committed a crime against me, then only that one victim is allowed to testify. Because if you allow a laundry list of other accusers to come forward, that creates the possibility of passion and prejudice by the jury. You can't really devote enough time in 5 or 6 mini trials to really fairly adjudicate whether all of these other women were victims as well. If you did devote all the time, it would just be endless. And so as a result, the worry that most judges have is that juries will look at the 5 or 6 additional victims and say to themselves, you know what, I don't think Andrea Constand is really a victim, or I don't think that Kevin Spacey's Massachusetts Martha's Vineyard bar victim was really a victim, but doggone it, I think Cosby or Spacey really did abuse all of those other folks, or some of them, and therefore he deserves to be sent to prison as a result of the allegation of this guy who really didn't prove his allegations. So in general, judges do not allow this kind of stuff to come in. But sometimes they do. And they allowed it in the case of Bill Cosby. He's now appealing in part based on that permission. It didn't help Phil Spector to appeal it, though, because if you remember the Phil Spector situation, he went to House of Blues in West Hollywood. He picked up Lana Clarkson, who was the hostess for House of Blues. He took her up to his so-called castle in Alhambra, a big, giant home/mansion in Alhambra in the San Gabriel Valley section of Los Angeles County. And he was there for several hours with her. He gets drunk. He whips out his gun. He waves it at her. And next thing you know, she's dead. So what happened? Was it an accident? Was it criminal negligence on his part? Was it suicide by her, as the defense attorney suggested? Well, the judge looked at the fact that there were 5 other women in Spector's past who were prepared to testify and say, yeah, I went out with Phil and he got drunk and he waved a gun and I lived to tell about it. I'm just lucky. So the jury didn't hear that in the first trial of Phil Spector, but they heard it in the second trial, and they sent Phil Spector to prison as a result of his conviction in the second trial. And you know that one of the big reasons that they did convict him in the second trial was because they had this series of additional testimony by the additional victims. As to whether or not that's going to be a problem for Bill Cosby, we'll probably know within a year whether or not his appeal of the conviction is successful. A lot of you have heard the story about what happened to Phil Spector when he went up to Corcoran State Prison after he was prosecuted the second time. One thing that happened the first week he was up in Corcoran State Prison is that he had a kind of a root canal problem. And so he said to the guards, oh, my good man, would you please take me to my dentist in Toluca Lake? I've got a root canal issue. And you might say, well, they'd laugh at him and say, go back to your aluminum bed there. No, they said, oh, well, when would you like to go, Mr. Spector? We'll get you some guards and a van. You know why they did that? Because California has a law that says if you are incarcerated, and if you can demonstrate that you really would benefit from going to your own doctor or your own dentist, then you may go. You may leave the prison if you will pay for the security, the van, multiple guards, and that's what he did. He had the bucks to pay for the security and the van, so off he went, got his root canal fixed, and back he went to Corcoran State Prison. That was the first week he spent there. But the first day he was at Corcoran State Prison was even odder and maybe a little creepier. The very first day Phil Spector was in Corcoran State Prison, he got a note, and the note said, oh, I'm a big fan. I'd like to talk to you about music. It was from Charlie Manson. Quite a little welcome to Corcoran State Prison. So that's the experience of people who had multiple accusations against them, whether it's Phil Spector or Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein. Epstein. We don't have a conviction for him yet, but probably people are going to Vegas and betting on it. As to whether or not that's going to happen to Kevin Spacey, I have a feeling he's going to hit the ground running. He'll probably defeat this guy who's just committed a suicide by lawsuit, and then we're just going to have to find out if the other accusers come forward with perhaps more persuasive allegations. Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Democratic debate here, all the candidates, all 20 of them. Stick with us on the Royal Oak Show.
Office in California. Call 310-873-4422 or visit drsheps.com. That's DRSHEPS.com. 310-873-4422.
Imagine this is your money and someone wants to take it from you. Who is it? The IRS. They want your money, and guess what? They can legally take it, all of it if they want. Remember, they sent you that letter that said, hey, you owe us a bunch of cash and we're going to take it from you. So what do? Fight back by letting our team of experts at the Tax Helpline work it out with the IRS so you can keep your money. And we're good at what we do. When you hire us, you get a team of guys on your side that know the IRS laws and will fight to save your money. So if you owe the IRS a ton of cash and you want to keep it, call right now and learn for free how we can help you put it back in your pocket.
800-932-1597. 800-932-1597. 800-932-1597. That's 800-932-1597.
The following ad contains shocking material. Listener discretion is advised. Is someone in your family playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette? Over 43,000 people die a year from drug overdose. 120 people a day. 5 people every hour. 1 person every 12 minutes. 88,000 people die every year from alcohol abuse. Over 240 people a day. 10 an hour. 1 person every 6 minutes. Somebody you know may be next. Learn how to help someone you love get away from the drugs, alcohol, and bad influences. With the FMLA, people can take a leave of absence from their job and still keep it.
Call Quit Drugs 321 now at 800-378-3315. 800-378-3315. 800-378-3315. That's 800-378-3315.
Welcome back to the Royal Oak Show with nobody as our co-host. My goodness, out of force I habit, I say we've got Ken Jeffries and we've got our millennial correspondent Connor Oakes, both on special assignment. So it's just little old me, and glad you decided to join the program. So we've disposed of the mystery of Kevin Spacey's accuser. He has committed suicide by lawsuit. Not literally suicide, but his accuser has filed a lawsuit. It's going to way undermine his credibility, so Kevin's probably going to walk as a result of that. Let's move to the Democratic debate. Pretty amazing shows, both shows. I guess Elizabeth Warren was kind of the winner the first day, but the second day, it's all about Kamala Harris. All about the fact that she took Joe down. So isn't this a dream come true for Donald Trump? Isn't it a dream come true for Kamala Harris and others to be dragging down the one guy who can beat Donald Trump? If this isn't a rerun of 1964 and 1972, I don't know what is. 1964, we know, of course, the Republicans could not resist the temptation to nominate Barry Goldwater, a pretty far-right guy, and Lyndon Johnson crushed him. I think Barry Goldwater won 5 states, maybe 4 deep states, South states, and Arizona, his home. And then 1972, the Democrats just couldn't resist. They were really ticked off at Richard Nixon for a lot of reasons, including the fact that Vietnam was still percolating and we've got the 60s hangover. And so they decided, doggone it, they were going to run George McGovern, the very liberal senator from South Dakota. And Richard Nixon beat him 49-1. Can you imagine a Republican presidential candidate winning 49 states? Well, he did, and the reason he did it is because I think there was an expression, AAA was the argument by Richard Nixon against McGovern. There was A for amnesty, 1 for acid, and 1 for abortion. So they portrayed him as a far-left guy. And what do you know? The American public fell in line for Richard Nixon, not exactly Mr. Hip and trendy, not exactly Mr. Warm and fuzzy and popular. Remind you of somebody like Donald Trump. Who likes Donald Trump? maybe Ivanka and Ivana and Don Jr. and Eric, although, don't go to Vegas and bet on that. Doesn't matter. The base is going to vote for him, and the great middle of the folks who appreciate the fact that we've got this amazing economy going are probably going to be very seriously considering voting for him as well. The first question of the Wednesday debate, they said 70% of the public likes the economy. Even 60% of the Democrats like the economy. Why change, really? Well, if you go back and look at the tape or read the transcript, nobody had a good answer to that question as to why we should change the direction of the economy. What they did volunteer as to what they wanted was some amazing stuff it can almost seal the deal for Donald Trump. When the moderator, not the narrator, said to all 10 of the candidates on Wednesday, all right, please raise your hand if you believe that crossing the border of the United States illegally should no longer be a crime, but instead should be a civil matter where you would get a ticket and be told, please come back sometime to some court hearing. You want to know how many of the 10 candidates raised their hand? Every single one of them raised their hand. Now, admittedly, some of them, like Joe Biden, sort of looked around a little bit, raised it halfway, very slowly, but doggone it, at the end of the day, they all raised their hand. Oh, okay, so you're for open borders. So you're essentially saying anybody from anywhere on the planet who wants a better life, who wants access to all of the social services we provide to everybody, should be allowed to cross the border and not have it be a crime, be able to disperse into the population. So that's the first question. Then the second question came, how many of you think that everybody, including illegal aliens, should be allowed to have free health care if they need it here in the United States? And once again, slowly, but at the end of the day, every single one of the 10 Democrat candidate hands went up, and they said, that's what we want. Now, you tell me, is that going to make it easy to beat Donald Trump, or is Donald Trump has he just found the contents of the first month of his TV ads for his reelection to show every single Democratic candidate, at least the 10 of the 20 that raised their hands that night, saying, yeah, open borders, and yeah, illegal aliens, you betcha we're going to pay for health care and so on. To me, this is sounding a whole lot like 1964 and Barry Goldwater. It's sounding a whole lot like 1972 and George McGovern. It's really pretty amazing. And when you add up the cost of the Democrats' plans for the Green New Deal and so on, it comes up to $93 trillion, which, if you do the math, is $65,000 per family per year, which is more money than the federal government has spent in the entire history of the United States. So all of this is telling us that the Democrats really can't resist the idea that, doggone it, this is low-hanging fruit. We're going to be able to knock off Donald Trump for sure. And in doing that, why go with another business-as-usual Biden-type person? Instead, let's get somebody who's really going to reshape America and give us the new Green New Deal. Well, it's fine to hope, but 49-1 is what Nixon did. I'm not predicting 49 for Trump, but it could be a blowout. When we come back, O.J. Simpson is back on Twitter. Stick with us on the Royal Oak Show.
On CRN with the Royal Oak Show.
This is the entertainment answer. The live-action Aladdin is in theaters, and Will Smith found the role of the genie very appealing.
One of the major aspects was going from animation to live action, being able to modernize, to be able to pay homage to the original character and giving a new voice. There was potential to be able to create something that did both of those things.
Aladdin rated PG. For this entertainment answer, I'm Matt Mungle.
Hello, I'm Fred Dreyer. I've had a MyPillow for 2 years. Before that, I had sleeping problems. Pillows would go flat, I would flip and flop all night, I would wake up with a sore neck and a sore back and maybe even a headache. Made right here in the United States with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose. For a limited time, go to MyPillow.com and get a 2-pack of MyPillow Premiums for just $69.98. That's only $34.99 per pillow. And it's only available at MyPillow.com when you use the promo code WINNER. That's 2 premium pillows, just $69.98 with the promo code WINNER at MyPillow.com or call 800-513-3363. That's 800-513-3363 or MyPillow.com promo code WINNER. for a fantastic offer.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Hi, everyone. This is Fred Dreyer telling you about my favorite Italian restaurant. It's Angelo's and Vinci's in Fullerton, California. Angelo's and Vinci's has the best pasta, the best seafood, the best salad, spaghetti, lasagna, and the most incredible pizza. And the chicken is delicious. Marsala, piccata, cacciatore, parmigiana, and more. For desserts, try our spumoni or our tiramisu, my favorite, flown in fresh from Italy. And the cannolis and the zeppolis are out of this world. Open for lunch and dinner. And don't miss the Sunday champagne brunch, just $23.95. Are you kidding me? It's all up the road from Disneyland at 550 North Harbor Boulevard in Fullerton, California. Angelo's and Vinci's, like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. Call 714-879-4022 or visit us online at angeloandvinci's.com.
We are the debt destroyer. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt. Call now to get our free report that tells you how to destroy your debt. It's a great resource. Plus, when you make this free call right now, we'll have a debt destroyer expert ready to help you. They can show you how they can help you destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help you slash your debt. Call right now for free information, including our Debt Destroyer Guide, a $300 value, yours free. Call right now.
800-515-6348. 800-515-6348. That's 800-515-6348.
Welcome to your island home away from home at Kaanapali Beach Hotel. Relax and unwind on 11 acres of tropical gardens by the whale-shaped pool or in a beachfront cabana. Enjoy your favorite ocean activities, culture activities, and free nightly entertainment. A perfect setting for weddings, honeymoons, family vacations, or just a weekend getaway. Experience aloha at its best at Hawaii's most Hawaiian hotel. Call 661-0011 or visit kbhmaui.com and let us welcome you and your ohana to ours.
Welcome back to the Royal Oak Show. Without our co-host, Ken Jeffries, without our co-host, millennial correspondent Connor Oakes. They're off on special assignments, so you just got me today, and so to make it kind of special for you, because you're missing your pals, we're using the Jeopardy and Karnak the Magnificent episode of the Royal Oak Show. We're going to introduce our topics here with the answer, and you get to guess the question. So here's the answer. The answer is, please just shut up. The question is, what should we say to O.J. Simpson, who obviously wants to get into social media in a big way? I think we should just tell him to shut up. I mean, you've seen he's now on Twitter. He's saying, "Hi, world, it's yours truly." You're right, O.J., you don't have to give us your name. We know who you are. But have we really come to this? He was tweeting about how it's really important to watch the Democrat debates and, get into the whole idea of democracy and figure out what public policies you want to support. Really? Are we interested in a double murderer's opinion, a former football star's opinion, a bad actor's opinion of how we should maneuver through these democratic processes? Why can't he just stay quiet and play golf? He plays golf every day in Las Vegas, where he lives now. Why does he feel it's important at this point in his history to break out? It's his coming out party. He's like a debutante at the ball, and get on Twitter. It's been, I think, a year and a half or so since they sprung him from prison in Nevada, and everybody has been kind of surprised, I think, that he didn't have more of a presence on social media or in the world or wherever, because he's been really quiet. The first week or so he was out, he did go to the Cosmopolitan Hotel, the casino there in Las Vegas. It's the one on TV where they advertise just the right amount of wrong. Well, that certainly applied that night when they let O.J. Simpson in. So he got drunk and he kind of busted up the place, broke some glass sunglasses and mirrors and so on. And so they banned him for life. They said, O.J., oh, we love you. You know, you were great in The Naked Gun. We weren't wild about the double murder. Never come back to the Cosmopolitan. What do you think O.J. did the very next week? He filed a lawsuit against the Cosmopolitan for racial discrimination. How dare they ban him for life? I think the lawsuit went nowhere. But for a year and a half, he went nowhere. He didn't get into trouble. He didn't bust up any bars. He didn't go on social media. And then this month, marking the 25th anniversary of the double homicide and the 25th anniversary of the low-speed chase of O.J. Simpson, he busts out and suddenly says, hey, Twitter world, here I am. I'm O.J. Simpson. I'm sure you've been waiting for my opinions on stuff. Not really. I think he wants a reality show. I'd be shocked if he doesn't somehow develop it. I'd be shocked if there weren't enough people who would be interested in watching and seeing what his life is like. He's got a challenge because to the extent he makes any money from a reality show or anything else, he has to give it to his creditors, including Fred Goldman. He owes them about $50 million now. The judgment against him as a result of the civil jury in Santa Monica voting unanimously 12-0, yes, O.J., you did kill 2 people. They awarded about $32 million, which with interest now is up to about $50 million. So that's a problem. O.J., you can tell, is not the kind of guy who wants to work hard and then hand it all over to Fred Goldman, even if it did involve him getting even more famous as a result of a reality show. A lot of people have speculated that what he's going to do is set up a production company, and the production company will be allowed to make money, and he'll get a pittance, and the pittance will be seized by Fred. But under the table, O.J., of course, will get more than a pittance as a result of his involvement in it. I mean, does he really think a run-of-the-mill celebrity presence on Twitter is somehow going to sanitize his record and numb people to the fact that he is a killer? Oh, O.J. Simpson? Oh, he's that guy on Twitter who talks about politics, right? Didn't he have some legal problems like decades ago? Anyway, he makes a lot of sense. Maybe he should run for office. Is that what he's counting on? I mean, it has been 25 years, so there are a whole lot of people who either weren't born or were 3 or 7 or 10 who basically remember nothing about the O.J. Simpson situation. Hopefully, when people see him on the street, they will shun him. They won't go for the selfie. They won't go for the hug. I've told you the story about when he was in trial in Las Vegas several years ago. I was there for helping to cover it with Channel 4, and a client of mine was there for a conference, and she wanted to see part of the O.J. Simpson trial. And so I got her a pass, and we arranged to meet afterwards. She could tell me how what she felt about the trial. Well, she was an attractive, petite, blonde woman who looked a little bit like Nicole, and she was sitting near the family members of O.J. Simpson. So he spotted her as he looked back over his shoulder during the incriminating proceedings. And he spotted her as a result when she was talking to me in the hallway outside the courtroom after the afternoon session, and he comes out wearing his fancy $2,000 suit. He makes a beeline for her, introduces himself, asks who she is because he saw her in the courtroom. He was hitting on my client. So she, of course, is kicking herself because she wanted to say something like, how dare you address me, you double murderer. But people don't want to do that. As a result, that's why I think you get a lot of folks going for the hug or going for the selfie. Other big story of the week, Robert Mueller is going to be testifying before Congress, and some people are shocked and surprised. Oh my gosh, didn't he tell us at his press conference a few weeks ago, there's nothing more to say, his work speaks for itself, there shall be no testimony because anything he would say would simply be a reiteration of his report? That's what he said, but he's now worked out a deal where he is going to appear. Now, the Democrats in the House committees, there are going to be 2 committees that are going to welcome his testimony on July 17. And I believe it's the Judiciary and maybe the Intelligence Committee in the House. And what they're going to do is, of course, to rake him over the coals to try to get him to admit that, in fact, Donald Trump did commit obstruction of justice. I don't think they're going to be happy when they hear his answer, because I really doubt that if Congressman Gerald Nadler says to him, "Oh, Mr. Mueller, so nice of you to be here. Now, here's the question. I know you said there was a little bit of a constitutional issue. You can't indict a sitting president and so on. And so you told us that that was really the reason that you weren't able to come to a conclusion that, in fact, he did obstruct justice." Hypothetically, you're a lawyer, Mr. Mueller. You're familiar with hypothetical questions. They're used in court all the time. Hypothetically, if you could indict a sitting president, tell us, did what Donald Trump justify the indictment of Donald Trump for obstruction of justice if you set aside the fact that he may not be indicted because he's a sitting president? Huh? What do you say? What do you think Mueller is going to say? I don't think he's going to answer the hypothetical question. I think he would feel as if it's irresponsible for him to give that personal opinion. He's already said that the work speaks for itself. I mean, in a way, he probably welcomes the opportunity to kind of set the record straight because, I mean, he's not up there with O.J. in terms of being reviled, but he is kind of hated by everybody. And when you think about it, the left was so invested in the idea that the Mueller report was going to establish that Donald Trump did stuff that is absolutely impeachment worthy, both in the realm of collusion and obstruction. And for Mueller to work for 22 months with 17 lawyers who included absolutely no Republicans, not a single Republican, who included a lot of people who worked for Hillary, who donated to Hillary, and they were unable to convince the boss, Robert Mueller, to conclude that what Trump did amounted to collusion. I mean, that was devastating. It wasn't as devastating as the morning after Donald Trump getting elected, but it was pretty hard for the left to take. So they don't have any love lost for Robert Mueller. They're hoping he'll redeem himself. But then you go to the right side. There aren't a whole lot of fans of Robert Mueller on the right either. They think that he took too long. They also have some questions, and this is an issue that one of the Republican congressmen might ask Robert Mueller on July 17. You heard it here first. I'm predicting they're going to ask. They're going to say, "Gee, Mr. Mueller, this is interesting. You found that there was no evidence of collusion whatsoever. In fact, your report even said that the Russians kept coming back to the Trump people, inviting them to work with them to get dirt on Hillary Clinton, and they were rebuffed by the Republicans." Now, yes, there was that one meeting in Trump Tower in June 2016 where Donald Jr. said, "Oh, hell yes, I love it," to the prospect of getting some dirt on Hillary Clinton. So the lady diplomat from Russia showed up, and it turns out her agenda was to talk about releasing sanctions on Russia and adopting Russian babies, and she didn't have any dirt on Hillary. But aside from that, the Mueller conclusion stated that the Trump people rebuffed the requests by Russia to get involved. So for that to be the basis of Mueller's report obviously made a lot of people very unhappy. But I think Mueller, in fact, probably would welcome the opportunity to set the record straight because he can explain his position that the fact that the president cannot be indicted is really the reason he was unable to come to a conclusion as to whether or not there was obstruction of justice. The Democrats' objective in the hearings certainly is not to get a smoking gun. They know they're not going to get a smoking gun out of Robert Mueller because they already got 448 pages out of him as to what he thinks about Donald Trump's activity. They want sound bites that will hold up on the campaign trail and can justify impeachment. You will see Robert Mueller's face on Democratic TV commercials. Earlier in the show, I mentioned my prediction. The Trump campaign commercials are going to have all of the Democrats in a line at the debate raising their hand when asked, basically, should we have open borders? They all said it should not be a crime to cross the border illegally anymore. It should be a civil matter where you get a ticket and, oh, would you please come back to some courthouse down the road if you feel like it. That's going to be a mantra by Trump. You can bet that it's going to be a mantra by the Democrats to put on TV commercials showing Robert Mueller giving answers that are incriminating against Donald Trump. Now, who knows whether he's going to do that? If he takes the bait, and if he does answer the question, well, hypothetically, setting aside the fact that there or may not be an indictment of the president as a constitutional basis. You tell us whether or not there was obstruction. If he says, yeah, I really think there was. But even in the absence of that, there were 11 grounds for obstruction of justice discussed by the Mueller report. Everything from firing Comey and then admitting he did it to get the heat off in terms of Russia, to telling the Russian representative in the Oval Office that was the reason he fired Comey, to telling his lawyer, Don McGahn, the personal lawyer for the White House, I want you to lie about whether or not I was talking about trying to fire Mueller. All of these things are going to be gone over in great, excruciating detail by the Democrats questioning Robert Mueller. And when they get those sound bites, you can bet that they're going to use them to the fullest on the campaign trail. So is Mueller testimony going to be a nothing burger? Well, maybe, because essentially that's what Mueller said during his press conference, that I'm not going to be saying anything new or different. There's no reason for me to testify. I think the wild card here is how the voters are going to react when the Democrats insist on impeaching Clinton. Are they going to react the same way that the voters reacted when the Republicans insisted on taking down Bill Clinton and impeaching him for lying about sex? Or is it going to be a situation where there are some smoking guns that come out as a result of the investigation that are even more detailed than what we've seen out of Mueller? That's what we're going to be looking at over the next few months. Hey, let's switch gears and talk about the Supreme Court, because they finished up their term. And thank goodness the 9 members of the Supreme Court can finally go on vacation. Ruth Bader Ginsburg can sun herself in Martha's Vineyard. Brett Kavanaugh can have as many beers as he wants because he's off duty for 3 months. I don't know if you've seen Stephen Colbert's cartoon show called Our Cartoon President, but it really skewers the First Family, and it also, in the most episodes, skewered poor Brett Kavanaugh over his passionate love for beer. So the Supreme Court finished up their term this week. They are off on vacation because they kicked the last final 2 decisions out of the door. And I guess if we're going to stick with our Karnak and Jeopardy theme here, the answer to the question is Emperor Roberts. Emperor Roberts is the answer. What's the question? Well, the question is, what should we now call Chief Justice John Roberts? Might as well call him Emperor, because he's the damn decider. I mean, he is the new swing vote. As we know, Anthony Kennedy for years was a pretty crucial member of the Supreme Court because he seemed to be the swing vote on every big important case. You got the 4 liberals who always vote together. You've got the 4 conservatives who almost always vote together. And you have one person now in the middle. I mean, it's as if we had in the 435-member House of Representatives 217 Democrats and 217 Republicans and 1 independent in the middle. And since Congress folks tend to vote as a block these days, every single time a big bill came up, the one person who's in the middle gets to decide by casting the vote. And sometimes they'd make the Democrats happy, and sometimes they'd make the Republicans happy. That's what we've got going in the United States Supreme Court. Here you have a guy in John Roberts who was appointed by a conservative Republican president who bitterly disappointed the Republicans by saving Obamacare twice on 2 crucial votes a few years after Obamacare was passed in 2010. And it's clear that he has his eye on the ball in terms of his legacy. The legacy being, what is the Roberts Court going to stand for? And he does not want it to stand for some sort of a knee-jerk, oh yeah, this is we're going to follow Clarence Thomas's vote every single time. So what happened this week? Well, we have 2 big decisions. The first one was, should we have the citizenship question on the census? Well, we find that John Roberts, even though it looked kind of good for the Republicans at the oral argument, they were pushing to get the citizenship question on the census. John Roberts said, no, I'm voting with the liberals. He voted with the solid 4-member liberal bloc, Breyer, Ginsburg, Sotomayor, and Kagan, and Roberts joined him. And so they struck down the census question. Now, it isn't gone forever, because what they said was, we want the lower court to look into this. But as a practical matter, the lower court re-looking into the question of whether you should put the citizenship question on the census, it's not going to take a few weeks. It's going to take maybe a few years to have it percolate back up to the U.S. Supreme Supreme Court. And guess what? The next every 10-year census is 2020. So we're not going to have time to get that question on the form. We learned from the reporting on this that, guess what? Little fun fact. The census forms for next year's 2020 census, they go to print next month. They go to print in July. Well, as a result of that, there's no time really. Even if the courts expedited their final decision on the question, there wouldn't be enough time. So, historically, we have asked the question about citizenship on the census. We did it back in 1950, not since then. But as a result of this decision, it's not going to affect the 2020 census. When we come back, we're going to talk about the other big decision that the Supreme Court kicked out the door just before they left for vacation, and that has to do with gerrymandering and redistricting. We'll talk about that when we return on The Royal Oak Show. Stick with us.
We'll be back on CRN with the Royal Oak Show.
Savor the past and savor the glory days of Las Vegas. Enjoy 70 years of true Las Vegas history as 4 generations of family wait to greet you at the legendary Bootlegger Italian Bistro. Wine, dine, and experience Mama Maria's award-winning original recipes while surrounded by original family photos and celebrity memorabilia. Enjoy piano artistry nightly with music from the Great American Songbook in our main formal dining room. The Bootlegger Italian Bistro, open 24/7, 7700 Las Vegas Boulevard South. In the entertainment capital of the world, the Bootlegger Italian Bistro, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 7700 Las Vegas Boulevard South, in the entertainment capital of the world. It's Vegas, baby.
Hi, everybody. Michael Horn from CRNTalk.com. You know, we provide you with the best in talk radio. 8 channels of talk radio, from radio on the left, radio on the right, sports talk, business talk, religious talk, Spanish talk, you name it, we've got talk radio for you. All at CRNTalk.com. Well, now we'll bring you video as well as audio. That's right. Watch your favorite shows like The Robert Conrad Show, The Fred Dreyer Program, What's Cooking Today, What's Cooking on Wine, The Lounge, and so many other shows in video right at our website, CRNTalk.com. You can also watch us on Roku. Just search CRN Talk, and you can watch us on Roku on any TV anywhere in the world. Also on Facebook Live. Go to Facebook.com/CRN Digital Talk. Facebook.com/CRN Digital Talk. Roku, search CRN Talk. Check us out on Tiki Live and at CRNTalk.com. Video for you talk fans, all from CRN Talk.
You order a glass of your favorite Cabernet, fresh asparagus, hollandaise on the side, a filet, medium rare. You unfurl your napkin with a flair, close your eyes, and prepare to listen. Ah, there it is. The sweet music you long to hear. The sizzle. The sizzle of a Ruth's Chris steak.
The most magnificent corn-fed prime beef, broiled to perfection at 1800 degrees. Some call it a sizzle. We call it an anthem.
As the waiter approaches, you think, is this one mine or that one?
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Like Ruth always said, life's too short to eat anywhere else.
Make a reservation online at ruthschris.com or by calling 800-544-0808.
Welcome back to the Royal Oak Show as we return to the tunes of Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. What an amazing movie. And if you liked that, you're going to love Rocket Man about Elton John. If you love those two, you will love Echo in the Canyon, about the 1965 to 67 music movement growing out of Laurel Canyon, the Beach Boys, Mama Cass and Mamas and the Papas, Eric Clapton, Stephen Stills, David Crosby. You've got interviews with the still living folks today. You've got clips of interviews from them back in the day in the mid-60s. Echo in the Canyon, you have to see it. Yesterday was June 28, 2019, and we know what happened in American history on that date, the Stonewall riots. So this is Pride Month. LGBT, my daughter was telling me all the letters, and I didn't get it right. I used to think it was just LGBT, and then there's a Q, and now there are more letters beyond that. So I need some education about that, but congratulations to those in the gay rights movement. This is a Gay Pride Month. So, speaking of yesterday, I saw the movie yesterday. It's amazing. I've forgotten the name of the star, but he has a remarkable voice, and you've heard about the concept. Something weird happens, and nobody in the world remembers the Beatles. It's like they never existed, and except for this one guy. And he happens to be a musician, a singer, a guitarist, and he pieces together the songs. You've seen the concept. Hopefully that isn't too much of a spoiler. It's a fabulous movie. And speaking of historic events in terms of the 50th anniversary yesterday of the Stonewall riots in New York City, we're coming up on probably the 28-day period that is the most jam-packed in American history ever. And it's the 50th anniversary of four things that happened between July 18 and August 15, 1969. So in that 4-week, 28-day period in 1969, four things happened stuffed into one 4-week period. Number one, there was Chappaquiddick on the 18th. Number two, there was a little thing called the moon landing with Neil Armstrong saying one small step for man. Third, you had the Manson murders in early August when he sent his murderous crew out to kill the folks in Beverly Hills and then also La Bianca family in Los Feliz. And the fourth and final thing that happened in this amazing 4-week period is Woodstock. So four things that we're still talking about, that we're going to be talking about for hundreds of years from now, all in one 4-week period, 50 years ago this summer. Pretty remarkable. Hey, we're going to polish off our conversation about the Supreme Court decisions because there were two of them. There was the census decision, but also the gerrymandering. And it really got a lot of Democrats lathered up because what happened was that once again, Chief Justice John Robets, the emperor, was the swing vote, and he voted this time with the Republicans, the conservatives, that is, and he voted to not get involved in the alleged illegal gerrymandering there in North Carolina, allegedly committed by the Republicans. And what they basically said was, it isn't a constitutional question. This is not our job in the federal courts. The states can regulate this. There are boards and there are commissions and police and so on that can stop illegal conduct. The Supreme Court was not questioning the fact that gerrymandering can be a bad thing. And we also have seen the weird line drawing, but basically what it boils down to is imagine you're in a big city, and in a chunk of the city you've got 100,000 folks stuffed into a 8-mile by 8-mile area. And let's say these 100,000 people generally vote pretty much the same way. They're kind of a unified block. They could swing the election. They could elect an assemblyman and a congressman or two and so on. Well, the party in power doesn't like this block of voters. And so the party in power comes along and says, here's a little pie. We're slicing up this 100,000 vote, 10 square mile block of people into 4 squares. And each of the 4 quadrants is going to be in 4 different districts. And as a result, guess what? The power of the 100,000 voters is so diluted, they don't get to elect anybody. Well, that's illegal, gerrymandering, and so on. Why do you think the Supreme Court would say, we don't want to get involved in that? First, it sounds really messy. It also is something that is done by both parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. So the Supreme Court's attitude is, it's not our problem. Let somebody else handle it. Both sides are guilty. Hey, thanks for sticking with us. The gang will be back next week on The Royal Oak Show. Have a great week.
CRN Digital Talk Radio prides itself on being the station of every situation. And you can listen to us on nearly any platform and device.